Hi everyone and welcome to your latest edition of We Are Sunderland with myself, Scott Wilson and Dom Shaw, coming to you as ever in association with our sponsors who are the Fans Museum in Sunderland and Cost Specs Opticians. If you're watching us on the YouTube channel, then please like, subscribe, leave us any comments, let us know what you're thinking and what you want us to talk about. And if you're listening on the various podcast platforms, then rate, review, and again, get in touch with us. Let us know what you're thinking and anything you want to get off your chest. Right, Dom. So, where are we? You were obviously at Preston in the week. You were also up at the academy today speaking to Regis Labris. So, we'll have a quick look back at Preston. We'll talk about the various talking points, and then we'll obviously throw it forward to the home game against Sheffield Wed on Sunday, Sunderland's first home game of the season. But let's start at Deepdale. 11 changes out of the Carabao Cup. Does it matter? Does it matter in the grand scheme of things that Sunderland have lost there and in the manner that they did?
I think why it matters is they're not going to. Sunderland weren't going to win it with respect, were they? So going out of the cup isn't a disaster in isolation. But I think where it matters is already 2 games into the season, we've got a starting 11 and a second string, haven't we? And the problem you've got now, not for players like Chris Rigg and Romain Mundle, actually, Labris talked about him today, but not for players like Rigg and Mundle and maybe Hjelde, who you would think are going to be kind of key first team players and are going to have a part to play, and he can't
even if it's off the bench.
Yeah. But for some others, the problem you've got now is when are they next going to get a chance to play?
Yeah.
Rusin, Labris confirmed today that Mayendra is his first choice striker as things stand, and he sees Rusin as a better impact player from the bench. Well, that's all well and good, but with 10, 15 minutes here and there, is Rusin really going to develop and improve? And I think that has to be a concern for Labris, doesn't it? Because he was talking, it was after the game, about my focus isn't on transfers, my focus is on developing players. Well, that's all well and good, but is there a limit to how much you can develop players on the training ground rather than playing games? So I think even just having one more game in the cup to look forward to give minutes to the likes of Abdullah Bar and Mundle and various others, I think from that perspective, it's pretty damaging.
Yeah. So it's more what it means for the next couple of months rather than the actual performance on the night. Because, with 11 changes, Sunderland weren't dreadful. Whether it was, I think they probably deserved to get beat. I think most Sunderland fans would probably agree that Preston deserved to win the game. But considering all the changes, it wasn't a bad Sunderland performance. But it's like you say, the worry now is, how are these players going to get an opportunity to stake their first team claim other than in training, obviously, and maybe an odd run out for the under-21s. But it is a disappointment in that sense.
Yeah, it is. I thought Sunderland played well, especially in the first half. They ran out of steam in the second, didn't they? But I was at Bradford when a very, very similar team, it might have been like only 1 or 2 different from that, played. And they were really poor that night. I thought that was a worrying performance, really, considering you looked at that game and thought this is the last chance at that stage for some of these players to really stake a claim and say, I should be in your first team plans. Well, none of them did that night, other than Romain Mundle. And I thought Mundle looked bright again on Tuesday night. He's definitely got something, hasn't he? There's definitely something there. He's raw, he's inconsistent, he's frustrating at times, but there's definitely something there. I thought Rigg was class, really good. But then we knew that beforehand, didn't we? But for a 17-year-old to kind of shine as he did, and I think that's the one. So you were at Cardiff last week, and you've been hugely impressed with Brown, haven't you?
Yeah.
And when you look at Sunderland's team at the minute, I think it picks itself, other than Rigg.
Yeah.
If Rigg keeps playing like that, or if Rigg kind of keeps knocking on the door in training, which we know he will, because all we're hearing from Labris and previous managers is how intense Rigg trains and how impressive he is in training. He's got to play in the end, hasn't he? And just because of his pathway, Rigg's got to play games this season. So I think that's the interesting one. I thought Moore was really good in goal. He's clearly not going to play. Patterson's going to play. But I thought He showed he's a safe pair of hands. And although the defence, so Zach Johnson, not a right back, I thought it was like a sound effort, really. Joe Anderson really struggled on the left. I think Hjelde, because he was covering for Anderson, found things difficult. But I thought Triandis was good. And he played in midfield, didn't he, when he was out on loan in the second half of last season? And I'm watching that on Tuesday night thinking, I can see why, because his reading of the game is very good. He steps out. He's comfortable in possession. Again, you look at the players who are ahead of him in the pecking order in defence and obviously in midfield. It's hard to see him nailing down a place, but I thought it was a promising performance from him. At the other end, I thought Rusin was poor. It did nothing to change Labrisse's mind. And Labrise confirmed today that Mayenda is his first choice striking target. So that's Rusin 2, and that's before, one, maybe two strikers come in. It's difficult to see him playing a major part this season, isn't it?
We'll get on to strikers in a minute because clearly we have to. But just one more, a last one on Preston. Is the fullback situation a worry? And I only say that because, the two lads that you mentioned there, centre halves playing at fullback. But if there was to be injuries at fullback at the moment, they're probably pretty much where you'd have to go. And I just raise it because, there's been times in the last couple of seasons where Sunderland have been scrambling around for a fullback, particularly a left back, and have had to play centre halves out of position then. It's just not worked. I mean, does Sunderland need fullbacks before the window closes?
Well, I think
they probably do.
Yeah, I think they're all right at left back because you've got Sirkin, Elise, and Hjelde's played there. But right back, Pembele, the one out on loan, don't he? Wasn't in the squad on Tuesday. Doesn't feature in the immediate plans. Needs a loan move, really, doesn't he? Johnson was a centre half playing at right back. I like Johnson, but he's not a right back. So you've got Try Hume. Niall Huggins not going to be back until the start of next year, and even then, you've got to bear in mind it's been another long, serious injury. So you've got Try Hume, and Nick Barnes asked Regis Labrise about this today at his press conference and said, "Do you need a right back?" Labrise kind of said no. Said we can adapt. We can play different systems. We can play three at the back. We can play wingers there. That's all well and good saying that, and I guess that's all well and good kind of hypothetically. But if, God forbid, Try Hume was to get an injury, then you've got a problem there, haven't you? Because playing a winger as a right wing back might work in some games, but it won't work. It won't work every week. But the suggestion seems to be that no, they won't bring in a right back, and Pembele is obviously going to go out. And from what Labrise was saying afterwards as well, I'd expect Johnson to go out.
Which makes sense because he's as we've said, he wouldn't be the answer there anyway. I don't think if anything happened with Hugh, but I do feel that's an area that is a potential weakness and where Sunderland might just be leaving themselves short. We all know where there is a weakness. Here we go. What are we? 8 minutes 25. If you're playing, when are they going to talk about strikers bingo? It's 8 minutes 25. Tick that off on your list. I mean, has anything changed? Are we any nearer to knowing who's coming through the door? When they're coming through the door? What on earth's going on?
Well, here we go. I'll let Regis Labrise update us rather than me or you. Okay. So he said today. And again, like there's I guess there's suggestions here that something is close and suggestions there isn't. Nothing is close at the moment. We are working really hard. We're in discussions with many players in and out. We are confident this market is very difficult. The process is complex, but I think we will succeed maybe in the next few days. So there you go. So I then asked him, is that a loan or a permanent? And he said both are possible. So
make it up what you will.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, we're recording on Friday night. We'll speak to Labrise again on Sunday after the Sheffield Wednesday game, which is a couple of days. So we can ask for an update again there. But we're in the last 2 weeks of the window now. I know we're repeating ourselves. I just can't believe Sunderland are in this. Well, I can. I can believe it, but it's still staggering that Sunderland find themselves in this position, isn't it?
It's a mess, isn't it? And it's such a shame because, I was down at Cardiff, massive positivity, some really good performances. I genuinely do feel there are plenty of reasons to be positive and optimistic about this Sunderland team. But every time we talk about it, it's impossible not to come back to this season is going to stand or fall on who's playing up front and whether they're able to score any goals or not. And every week that ticks by, the situation just becomes more and more ridiculous. And yet, here we are, 2 weeks now, just over before the window closes. And, yes, we know that the Mendy situation is still kind of there on the back burner, although he's obviously back training now with Cayenne. We know that there's Premier League players, potential Premier League loans that are being looked at, they're being sniffed around, that there's talk about. But unless they're keeping things very close to the chest, and to be fair, they have done this with a couple of deals before, it doesn't feel like we're at the point where a strike is going to be paraded before the game against Sheffield Wed at the weekend. So then we are into the last 2 weeks of the window. And surely we're not going to get to deadline day and this not have been resolved by then, and it's going to be a real last-minute scramble.
Ross Stewart on loan, anyone? Southampton have signed Cameron Archer now. I mean, that's going to be difficult for him there, isn't it? But I think 2 points really that come to mind. First of all, Labrise keeps saying it's difficult to sign centre forwards. It is. It's the hardest. Yeah. But Middlesbrough have signed Tommy Conway this week. Bristol City have signed Scott Twine. Hull have signed a striker, be it Mason Burstow.
Yeah.
What clubs have? It is difficult to sign strikers, but clubs have managed it. And is there a championship club whose need for a striker was greater this summer? I can't say I know every single championship club squad inside out, although I probably should. But I don't think so. Off the top of my head. And I think the other concern is, so Jan Poveda still isn't ready to play this Sunday against Sheffield Wednesday. He's 80 or 90%, Labrise said. He's full train this week, but they want to make sure the foundations are there so he can play a major role all season. Well, if you're bringing a striker in, say Mendy, who hasn't been on the pre-season tour with Cayenne, has only just joined first team training again. If others have had kind of uncertainty or haven't, or under 21s who haven't been playing senior football, there's going to be a settling in period required then and there as well, isn't there? So you might be looking at, this might be pessimistic. You might be looking at 3 or 4 weeks until we see a striker wearing a Sunderland shirt. Yeah. And that's a concern. And it makes it difficult for Labrise, because as much as he's putting faith in Mayenda, and Mayenda has clearly made inroads, and I hope he's a success this season. But he looked way short last year of being championship ready, didn't he? Way short. So a big ask for him all at once.
Yeah, and I thought at Cardiff, there were elements of Mayenda's game that were quite good. He definitely will work. He's got commitment, but he just doesn't look like he's going to score, and that's the problem. That's the problem that Sunderland have had right through this process. Now, you talk about their strikers not potentially being ready. I think that Premier League loan moves are probably a little bit different. But if Sunderland are trying to sign a striker permanently, then once you're into the last 2 weeks of the window, with clubs knowing how desperate Sunderland are, you're over a barrel, really. Sunderland are not going to be negotiating from a position of anything like strength in this last 2 weeks of the window, when every man and his dog knows how desperately they need a striker if they're going to try and sign one permanently. Like I say, it's a bit of a different argument in a Premier League loan, because Premier League clubs will weigh up, are they going to play, what environment are they going into, who's the head coach, all of that comes into it. But if you're a club selling a striker, ultimately it's all about the money. And Sunderland, to my mind, and they've arguably never been in a position of real strength, but they're certainly not now, so late in the window, when they need potentially two.
Well, Jobe Bellingham played there last season, but Labrise confirmed today he has no plans to use him as a centre forward this season. He's a midfielder, he says, possibly a 10 at some stage, but absolutely not a striker. We've criticised, we've twisted here and criticised and moaned about the Sunderland striker search in the last 5-10 minutes or so. But credit where credit's due, Bellingham, what a signing! What a signing last summer. And he's been wanted by Premier League clubs this summer. For him for him, after just a year at the club, to turn those, to not even entertain those offers and to make it clear his only interest is staying at Sunderland, shows that they're doing something right, doesn't it? That's great news, isn't it, that new contract?
Yeah, and I think the fact that it comes off the back of Riggs' first professional contract and Dan Ballard's contract extension, we've hammered Sunderland justifiably, I think, at various stages in the past for not sorting contracts out and for getting themselves into a position where players have them over a barrel. Well, 3 absolutely crucial contract matters this summer, and Sunderland have made a success of all 3 of them. And I do think they deserve credit for that. And I do think you're right. For all that, we can talk doom and gloom about strikers till the cows come home. This is a club that are doing, a number of things right now and that players are willing to buy into. And I think that's important, that Rigg, Ballard and now Jobe have all put pen to paper and said, we believe in what you're doing here. We want to be part of it. We want to extend our deals here. That's important. I don't think you can downplay the significance of that.
No, 100%. And you would hope that that would have an impact on transfer pictures, on transfer talk, saying like, look what we've got here, and look at the future. We've got Jobe Bellingham and Chris Rigg, 2 of the most highly rated, most kind of excitable young English players, and they've both signed new long-term contracts here this summer. Then all the other talents you talked about there are countless players who you look at, aren't they, and think they could go on and play in the Premier League. So you would think that'd be quite the Sunderland sales pitch. Sheffield Wed Sunday, tough game, I think. Although there is that kind of element of, like, with respect, are Plymouth any good? Are Plymouth going to be rubbish this season? And if so, just how impressive was that opening day win? But we've talked at length, haven't we, about Danny Rowland here. I think it's a tough game. Be a class atmosphere. They'll bring a load of fans, won't they? I think it has the makings of being a really good game.
I think it will be a really good game. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think it'll tell a fair bit about both clubs, even though it is so early in the season. I think it'll show the extent to which Sheffield Wed have built on their great end to last season and are a club who can realistically target the top half of the table this season, even be promotion outsiders. And it'll also show to what extent Sunderland's pretty pathetic showing on the last day of the season can be written to how bad they'd been in the run-up to that game and just how bad everything was at the end of last season. Have they improved from that? Was that win over Cardiff signs that they've drawn a line under what happened last season, and under Labris, this is a new Sunderland? Or was it the fact that just Cardiff weren't very good and actually, Sunderland haven't developed that far? I suspect there'll be a little bit of evidence of both, because I think Sheffield Wed are a good side. I think they have built on what they did last season, and I think they potentially will be dark horses for a playoff place this year. But I also think Sunderland are a completely different proposition to what they were in the last few weeks of last season. And I'd like to think we'll see that on Sunday, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and it's important, isn't it? Because for a lot of fans, this will be the first time they've seen Régis Labris's Sunderland in action. It's obviously his first home game in charge, and because the vast majority won't have seen any of pre-season, or obviously won't have been at Cardiff or Preston. You're looking back to last season and that kind of feeling of frustration and anger and apathy, I suppose, in the second half of last season. You need to get off to a positive start, don't you? Just a positive. I'm not saying it needs to be an emphatic thumping win, but it needs to be a positive display. You need to give the fans something to cling to, don't you? As you're walking away, feeling that kind of this is the start of something new rather than the continuation of last season's struggles.
Same.
1-1.
I was just going to say, same team, do you think, as played against Cardiff?
Yeah, I think so.
Expect so, wouldn't you?
Riggs the only one who I think made a case, but I don't see who he drops out of Neil, Jobe or Brown. I don't know what you think. I think it'll be the same team.
Yeah, I think it'll be the same team. I will be pretty confident it'll be the same team.
It'll be Mayenda again, won't it?
Yeah.
And
you're saying what, 1-1?
1-1. I think score draw, 1-1. Yeah, what do you reckon?
I think Sunderland will win it, actually. I think they'll win 2-1. I think they'll win 2-1, and I'm going to go Jack Clark to get the winner. I think Clark again. I know that's an easy pick, really.
It's the
And to be
obvious
fair,
thing,
it kind of does feel at the minute that if Sunderland are going to win games, Clark's probably going to win it for them.
yeah.
But I think it'll be a good game. Yeah, I think it'll be an entertaining game. But I think Sunderland have enough to shade it.
It'd be great for my ender to score. First home game of the season.
It would. It would.
Because he missed that chance at Cardiff, which he was frustrated by. But as a young player, you'd say to a young striker, don't dwell on that. But he naturally will do, won't he? If he's going to be the man for the next 2, 3, 4 games, I think it'd be great for him to get off the mark, especially in the first home game when the atmosphere is going to be bouncing.
No, it would. It would. You're there, aren't you? You're there Sunday. So enjoy. Obviously, enjoy yourselves if you're heading to the Stadium of Light. Thanks for watching. As I say, in association with the Fans Museum and Cospex Opticians. We'll be back next week for a bit more We Are Sunderland. Obviously, looking back at Sheffield Wed and no doubt talking about the lack of strikers. Maybe not.
I know. I was going to say, well, let's see what the update is on Sunday.
Maybe next week's the week. But fingers crossed, we're talking about a win and 6 points from 6. Enjoy the weekend. Make sure you have a look at the site, wearesunderland.com. Wall-to-wall coverage of everything that's happening at the Stadium of Light this weekend, and obviously through into next week. Thanks for watching. See you later.